Hi everyone, this is your art team lead, Haley, and I'm just here to give you a really quick rundown of all of our art assets up to this point. At least I'm going to try and keep it brief. I am having a really hard time with this whole YouTube stuff, so bear with me. I designed a test level to try out all of our art assets, so it'll give everybody a really good idea of what we're going for as far as art direction. In our last meeting, we discussed that the way that the player is going to view it is kind of a Shovel Knight sort of high quality 16-bit kind of style, but this is just the style that everything is going to look like, even though it'll be more pixelated in a way when the player sees it. So we've got our map, and the map is actually kind of complex as far as design goes. So art team, it's something to be really aware of, is that the different levels, I built the map in kind of a track sort of layout. The different levels all interact with each other artistically in a very involved kind of way that we'll go over in a little bit. So it's important to have a top-down view so we can see what we would see from each point in the map, and then a 3D view so we can see kind of what would block the way, just like a basic rough overview of that. So for the purposes of our test level, Aria would start at part 3A, and then she'll be able to travel along the track of these arrows through the level, and then the shaded spot is places that she can't go. So here's a page detailing all of our art assets for this level. The idea is that once you get the art assets programmed in, that you should be able to just copy paste all the way across the level. All of the art assets would be the same per level, so the challenge is just going to be developing all of the assets for each level and then a basic background or an area that those could all be in. So this one is going to be our bellflower. It's designed with a black stem, and then if this would color it in, it would have a dark purple kind of look for the petals. And the idea is that it's going to be used to teach controls and give in-game info. So the player would be able to go up to it, interact with it, and it would talk to them. Over here we've got this sort of rock with a little cattail, and those are accents, or maybe they hide items. I know in an early draft of the script that Jessica wrote, Aria would be able to walk up to the rock and be like, oh, it's just a rock, but maybe it was hiding maybe some hidden items or currency or something like that. Over here we've got our tree, kind of a creepy tree. The trunk would be kind of a gray color. The tree shrubbery in the background here would be a light lavender purple, and then the Spanish moss would be black to give you a good idea of the color palette. And the whole purpose of the trees is that it's going to obstruct Aria's path, and it would make moving forward impassable that we're going to see in our levels so far. So to start off, we've got layer 1, which if you were to look back here on the test level map is going to be this area over here, right back here. And from now on we're going to be traveling through the map kind of like this. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B, 5A, 5B. So you're going to be able to see how those layers interact with each other. It might get a little confusing, so I'll try and reference the test level map whenever possible. And if you do get lost, there's going to be a little number up in the corner that shows you what layer you're on. Hopefully it makes a lot more sense when you're looking at it, because explaining it does get kind of tough. So here's our introductory level to some of the mechanics that we're working with. We've got our C clef, that's the movable clef or Aria's symbol. We'll go over a recap of the symbols here at the end of the video. This tells Aria that it is okay to move between levels, or that she'll be able to interact with the environment. And then over here we've got this fun little symbol, and that correlates with something down here in the corner, a little corner page turn. So I wanted to make sure that the player had multiple references that it was okay to move between layers, because without telling them that, it does get kind of confusing. So this symbol is going to be the symbol for layer 1, and it'll tell Aria that she can move to layer 1 from layer 2. She can jump back. And on this layer we've got 2 trees, so she'll only be able to move in between these 2 tree areas. We've got our rock, maybe that might be hiding an item or some money, and then a bellflower, maybe to tell her, hey, make sure you're checking under all of your rocks for different items and stuff like that. Okay, so our next layer is layer 2, and this is probably our longest layer in the test level, but it's a really open layer, so it's kind of simple. It was really easy to draw. You'll notice that the moon is present in this area too, so I wanted to make sure that the player could see, okay, I'm moving backwards. Layer 2 is the only layer that the moon is present in. That doesn't mean that you won't be able to see it in other layers, so it'll look a little bit smaller, hopefully, as you keep advancing forward through the level. So we've got our C clef, that means Arya can move back and forth. This is going to be the symbol for layer 2, and we'll have to input a little page turn right there so that way you can see it. But you can jump back to layer 1 as well, and there's the symbol for layer 1 as well as the bass clef, and you can see the 2 trees back there too, and the rock and the bellflower that we saw on the previous screen. Our team, it's really important to make sure that we keep on track of which layers you will be able to see from which point. So for example, you would be able to see layer 1 or part of layer 1 from where you're standing in layer 2, but layer 3A, like we'll get to in just a second, you won't be able to see any of layer 1. So moving on. Here's layer 3A. We've got a tentative logo going. Obviously that's subject to change. I just wanted that to be a placeholder for that logo whenever we come up with it. And because this is the opening screen, so this would be the first screen that the player sees, I wanted to make sure that bellflower had an A symbol above it, or like, hey, check me out, look at me. So that way the player gets used to the idea, okay, I need to interact with the environment. I need to be looking under rocks and looking at the bellflowers. Because as the game goes on, I want the player to want to explore and want to backtrack. That was something that we've all discussed in our meetings. We want to encourage that kind of exploration. So we've got the symbol for this layer here, as well as that on the page turn. Moon looks a little bit smaller because layer 2 is back here, and you should be able to see some assets from layer 2, even though layer 2 is kind of one of the more empty layers. So moving on to 3B, across the map from 3A, this is the area that you'd be able to get to if you kept on traveling all the way to the end of layer 2 and you flipped forward. We've got the screen separated in kind of 2 halves, and that's because if you're traveling through the test layer, you can go here and keep traveling toward the exit of the level here at the tower, or you can go through to this hidden area back over here. And that would be, if the player were to backtrack to this area, they would be able to get to our little secret area. So anything labeled with A from now on is going to be towards the tower. Anything layered with B is going to be towards the secret zone. So flipping back to that screen, we've got it split in half because there's this fun symbol on the tree that is Forte's symbol, and Forte can take apart different obstacles or open doors. And so her symbol would be, if you brought her back here, you would be able to break down this obstacle or this tree in that example, and then keep moving forward towards the secret area. This way is going to be towards the castle, and then this way is going to be towards the secret zone. So flipping forward, we've got layer 4A. Moon's a little bit smaller, and it's in a different location than it was before because this is the only layer where you're going to see every single layer that comes before it. So this is a really great example of how the layer mechanic really works artistically. We've got the C clef for layer 4 right here, and then the symbol for that one telling you can flip forward. Layer 3 is back here, and you can see the Forte tree that we talked about before, as well as that symbol. Here's layer 2 all the way back here, and then super tiny in the background is layer 1. We've also got a couple of these bracket-shaped platforms. That's just a placeholder for what we want the platforms to look like going forward. I assumed that going forward the platforms would change to the look of each level, but that's just in development right now. You'll also notice this fun S symbol. That's Brio's symbol, and Brio is able to manipulate objects in the environment, so she would be able to move these platforms up and down if you were to activate this platform. And you'll notice there's kind of this funky shaped cloud up in the top area of the map, like up in the sky. That would be because if you were going through with just Arya during the tutorial, you could jump from here over to here, and then that would be kind of it, and you wouldn't be able to move any further. But if you had Brio with you, you could manipulate that platform to move up, and then Arya could interact with this fun-looking cloud there, and that would be maybe holding an item or something special up there to give the player some incentive to backtrack. At least that was the idea. And I wanted the tutorial to kind of cover each different character's special ability. So this would be Brio's special ability and then Forte's special ability we're about to go over.